Here's your host, Alex Garrett.
All right, and welcome inside to the Alex Garrett Podcast Network. It's the Adapting with Alex Garrett feature tonight, and my guest is actually from the Center for Independent Disabled New Yorkers, Tashia. She's the transportation coordinator, and she was at a huge rally a couple of weeks ago. But in this month where we honor those with disabilities, a reminder that a disability is not an inability, but also a reminder that we need more accessibility. And that is what CIDNY, CIDNY, is working on through their transportation arm. And Tashia, firstly, how did you get involved with the Center for Independent Disabled New Yorkers? Tell us a little bit about you and why you want to reform Access-A-Ride.
I have epilepsy. I've had it for 20 years, over 20 years. And as of, the past year or so, my seizures, unfortunately, have increased. So, unfortunately, I'm at a point right now where it's not safe for me at all to take the subway or bus by myself. Unfortunately, my condition has gotten worse. So, I'm taking public transit is just not safe for me. So even though I have in the past, I have been denied when I applied for Access-A-Ride because apparently I wasn't disabled enough. But after multiple tries, I was finally approved. They did approve me for the service. So it's hard. As I said, I've lived with epilepsy for over 20 years, and unfortunately, it's, seizures, they're uncontrollable. In my case, I can no longer tell when they're coming. So, it's very difficult for me. It's hard having to, I used to love taking the subway or the bus, that sense of independence. But now, due to my condition, the best option for me, for my safety, is paratransit.
Not too long ago, you guys had a rally and actually attended the board meeting for the MTA where they were proposing, get this, raises of the Access-A-Ride fares.
That's the thing, it's like the rates are already going to be going up for subway, bus, and paratransit users, but for on-demand pilot users, it's $4. And $4, that's only just one way. So it's like if it's a round trip, that's $8.
First of all, how did you guys come together and rally against these proposed hikes?
We have a coalition known as ARG, and it's an Access-A-Ride Reform Group. And we reached out to a number of people. We contacted a lot of people who are on-demand pilot program users, and a number of them showed up and testified. A number of them testified, whether in person or virtually. I testified in person.
Where can people see that testimony?
Yes, people can watch it on YouTube, the MTA board meeting. For me, frankly, it was just really feeling puzzled, and frustration of it, why they make it so complicated. I got really frustrated, and I told them, I'm like, something I would definitely love is for each and every one of you to experience both the regular service and the idea of what you guys are planning to do for the phase 2, because you're limiting the service. They say that I understand they say what they're planning on doing, collecting data and whatnot, but even though now they decreased it to $4, it's still not realistic. Just the other week, people were complaining about the increase of the $2.90 and the struggles that they're going to have.
And Tashia, wouldn't you say that if you're going to raise the rates, give us better service with Access-A-Ride?
Someone who works with consumers who uses Access-A-Ride, common complaints I hear from consumers, drivers who are on their phone, whether it's on TikTok, YouTube, or whatnot. Drivers, another common complaint is the language barrier people have with the drivers. There are, a lot of different types of complaints I've heard and stuff I've witnessed myself. And, I'm just having a hard time trying to understand why they're limiting the service for phase 2. They talk about all the improvements, but personally, I disagree.
All right, well, if you're in the community and you take Access-a-Ride, you know the struggles. But let's talk about those that are outside the community that actually just see the Access-a-Ride bus going to and fro, but they may not know there are issues with the service. Would you want the able-bodied community to step in and support the fight against these proposed fare hikes that really would be a disservice?
Take the situation for elevators. I mean, we've been advocating over and over again, and the difficulty people with disabilities face in taking the elevators. And so oftentimes some people's disabilities, the best option for them is paratransit. But you have a service, when it comes to paratransit, this is a service that's been around since the 90s. And to see where it's at right now, to finally have a pilot program where they provide you with the same-day service, but now they're making the same-day service more complicated. Now they're rationing the number of rides. It makes absolutely no sense. And for non-disabled folks, if they were to experience that themselves, the idea of trying to get to point A to point B, that no one would want that. No one would want to experience that. And that's something that that was the reason why, I had said when I stood before the board, I said, something I would love is for them to experience it.
We're talking with Tashia of the Center for Independent Disabled New Yorkers Transportation Arm. And Tashia, any other projects of accessibility that we can highlight in this conversation and that you guys are working on?
Something that helps a lot, I go to a lot of, I do outreach and go to senior centers. I do workshops explaining how Access-a-Ride works and helping anyone who wishes to apply for Access-a-Ride. But something that we would definitely need is more voices. The way there were a lot of voices at the MTA board meeting this Monday, we definitely would need something like that. More people, whether it's in person or virtually, more people talking about Access-a-Ride. Because oftentimes the MTA, they make it sound as though it's improved tremendously. But as a passenger and as an advocate for people who use it, I don't see the improvement. But definitely more voices to talk about the issues, the better.
How frustrating is it for you that accessibility is truly not up to par in what we call the greatest city in the world, New York City?
Yeah, it's very frustrating because as someone, when I heard about what it's like using the on-demand pilot program, I thought, well, that would be a lot more easier instead of me waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning, to get ready for my 7 a.m. pickup, only to have, where it's a shared ride and then they have to drop off the other passenger or whatnot. The frustration, that is very frustrating. I mean, and then you can add the other situation people face. I myself have faced it, waiting for hours for your ride to arrive, and or being marked as a no-show, even though you're standing outside waiting for your ride. So it's extremely frustrating. Like I said, they speak of Access-a-Ride improvements, but as an Access-a-Ride user, I don't see what they see.
To further the point of inaccessibility in Access-a-Ride, I heard from you off air that you had something going on that might have precluded you from going to the actual rally?
Well, for the Monday board meeting, there wasn't a rally, but the Tuesday one, that one, unfortunately, my Accessoride trip, I ended up getting there late. Yeah.
So doesn't that prove the point there, Tasha?
Yeah, my driver, for some weird reason, because I live in Queens, and the driver went from, and it was a shared ride, so went from Queens to all over Brooklyn to finally getting to Manhattan. And by the time I got there, the rally was over, and I went upstairs and I asked a colleague of mine. She told me, "Oh yeah, we had the rally already." And so I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah." So that was an interesting experience.
Tasha, there have been a lot of instances where I've heard from friends, and I've seen it firsthand, that some of the customer service by Accessoride, not only drivers but employees, is not really friendly and not really customer servicey, if you will. So, what have you been hearing? Are you hearing any of this at CIDNY?
Well, a common issue. A lot of people, filing complaints. But the common thing is getting a letter with an apology of what you went through, and that they would look into it. Because I recall, trying to help consumers, and when they needed to file complaints, and consumers would tell me, they just get the letter, and then that's it. But they never would get informed as to, okay, was anything done about the situation with the driver, what type of action was taken, and they never learned. So in the end, you're still using the service, but you're not sure if you're not sure what happened with the driver, was any action taken against them. You're really left in the dark. And I met a number of people who said that they stopped filing complaints because of this. They never got any answers as to what action was taken, so they figure what's the point in filing complaints. But I do tell people, yes, file complaints, and meeting with the MTA, testifying before the MTA. I speak on behalf of consumers as well.
And speaking of the MTA, I didn't get a chance to talk to anybody about this yet at the Center for Independent Disabled New Yorkers, but what about this deal that you guys signed with the MTA regarding elevator service in our subway stations? I heard it was a pretty big deal.
Well, they said that they would work for 95% of the stations would have elevators. I believe, I forgot what year they said that it would be complete, but so they said that the project would be complete, I believe 20, I don't remember the exact year, but the current problem that, arises is that, yes, while they're so-called working on the new elevators, however, there is a situation with the current elevators that they do have, and oftentimes the elevators aren't working properly, or whether it's elevators or escalators, and they're not those that are responsible to make sure that they're working. They're apparently not doing their job. So it's that's why it's like, okay, next month's board meeting, all right, you have to go back and repeat yourself, so be it. If you have to repeat yourself, if you have to be persistent and explain, saying where's the work that's supposed to be done. Being persistent apparently is what's needed.
I feel like New York City prides itself on inclusion and inclusivity, but Tasha, when there is inaccessibility in our city, that doesn't feel so inclusionary. So how do we work to get a more inclusive city that, yes, includes accessibility for people with disabilities that are independent?
Well, that's why, a lot of what's very important to us is, getting bills passed, whether it's for transportation, for health, anything pertaining, to the disabled community, because oftentimes, even when it comes to voting. Oftentimes, disabled community feels left out. I mean, when it comes to transportation, for example, you're waiting for your accessor to drop you off at your polling place. And, unfortunately, we've had to, hear stories of people being dropped off at the wrong location or whatnot. And so it's, one of the things with it can be extremely frustrating. Because, when I started working at CIDNY, I wasn't really aware of the difficulties the disabled community faced when it came to transportation, voting, and whatnot. I was completely clueless. But the more I met people, the more rallies I went to, and I started to look at it in a different way, and I was like, wow. Even though at the time I was able to take subway and bus by myself, but, still it was just seeing the difficulty, the challenge. And I was like, this is intense. I'm like, what is it about the disabled community that whether it's voting, whether it's transportation, always gets excluded? And yes, I mean, it's taken a lot of advocating, a lot of rallies, protests, and whatnot for people to finally be heard. Bills are passed, but we still have a long way to go.
Is there a specific website people can go to check out the efforts of the Center for Independent Disabled New Yorkers / the Transportation Department of CIDNY? Yeah,
our website is www.CIDNY.org. And, it has the work that we do and, the types of services that people need. So if anyone, I'm listed as one of the staff members for transportation and voting, and if anyone needs help, whether it's transportation or whatnot, we even have our newsletter. So if anyone would like to know about any upcoming events.
Something you definitely want to subscribe to. And on that vein, I'm sure there are going to be a heck of a lot more events this summer, right?
Yes, definitely looking into planning events, and something we had done earlier this year. We had gone to Albany, reaching out to legislators. Something for Lobby Day. That's something that we definitely participate in, and definitely would not mind having more people come join us for trips to Albany, to reach out to legislators and to talk about, and something that's also important as well, for people to give their stories. The more stories that we can collect about the difficulty they're facing, the better, trying to get the message out.
And I know that to get the message out, they can actually email you, right, Tasha?
Yes, there's T as in Tom, LEREBOURS@CIDNY.org.
Well, thank you for helping us kick off this Adaptive with Alex Garrett series for July, Tashia. And for more information, of course, visit the Center for Independent Disabled New Yorkers and click for more Adapting with Alex Garrett all month long as we honor the Americans with Disabilities Act for 2023.